She just wanted to finish her shift quietly, the same way she had for 37 years. But the new security guard had other plans. He called her just the cleaning lady, told her she didn't belong in the executive wing, and threatened to have her fired for walking through the wrong hallway. What he didn't know was that the woman pushing that cart had a key to every door in the building, and by morning, the entire company would discover exactly who had been keeping their secrets safe all these years. Welcome to Story with Jorge. Before we dive into this incredible tale of respect, dignity, and the power of paying attention, tell me in the comments which country you're watching from today. And if you believe that every job has dignity, hit that subscribe button. These stories matter. The Meridian Tower stood 43 stories above downtown, its glass facade reflecting the city's ambition back at itself. Inside, the executive floors hummed with the quiet efficiency of money being made, deals being closed, and futures being decided. Most people who worked there never made it past the 20th floor. But Elena Martinez had walked every hallway, cleaned every office, and knew every corner of that building for nearly 4 decades. At 11:47 p.m., she pushed her cart down the marble corridor of the 42nd floor, the same route she'd taken every night since 1987. Her movements were precise, economical, a woman who had perfected the art of being invisible while seeing everything. She wore her blue uniform with quiet dignity, her graying hair pulled back in the same neat bun she'd worn for years. The new security guard, Derek, barely 25 and 2 weeks into the job, watched her from his desk with growing irritation. He'd been told to keep things secure, to make sure only authorized personnel accessed the upper floors. To him, Elena was just another service worker who didn't understand her place. "Hey," he called out, his voice echoing in the quiet hallway. "You're not supposed to be up here this late." Elena paused, turned slowly. Her English was accented but clear. "I clean this floor every night, sir. Same time for 37 years. Derek stood up, adjusting his uniform to look more official. "I don't care how long you've been doing it. New rules. Cleaning staff finishes by 11. You're almost midnight." "The executives, they work late," Elena explained patiently. "I wait until they leave. Cannot clean properly with people working." "Look, lady." Derek stepped closer, his tone becoming more aggressive. "I don't know how things worked with the old guard, but I'm running this shift now. You finish early or you don't finish at all." Elena's hands remained steady on her cart, but something shifted in her eyes. "Sir, I have permission from—" "I don't want to hear it," Derek cut her off. "You're just the cleaning lady. You don't get to make decisions about executive floor access. Now, pack up your cart and get out before I call your supervisor." The hallway fell silent except for the soft hum of the ventilation system. Elena looked at Derek for a long moment, then nodded once. "As you wish," she said quietly. She turned her cart around and walked toward the elevator, her footsteps the only sound in the marble corridor. Derek felt satisfied as he watched her go. Finally, someone who understood the chain of command. What Derek didn't know was that Elena Martinez wasn't just any cleaning lady. What he couldn't have known was that the woman he'd just dismissed had been personally hired by the company's founder 37 years ago. What he definitely didn't know was that Elena had a master's degree in accounting from the University of Mexico City, spoke 4 languages fluently, and had been quietly serving as an informal advisor to 3 different CEOs. At 12:15 a.m., Elena sat in the security office on the ground floor, not to complain, but to do something she'd never done before. She placed her access card, her master key ring, and a sealed envelope on the desk of the night supervisor. "Mrs. Martinez." The supervisor, Tom, had worked there for 15 years. "Is everything all right?" "I resign," Elena said simply. "Effective immediately." Tom's face went pale. "Elena, what happened? You can't resign. This place would fall apart without you." She gestured toward the elevator. Your new guard, he says I'm just the cleaning lady. He's correct. Time I stop pretending to be more. Tom knew Elena had keys to offices that even he couldn't access. He knew the executives trusted her with documents that never saw the inside of a safe. He knew she'd prevented 3 major security breaches just by noticing things others missed. But he also knew Elena well enough to recognize when her mind was made up. "Elena, please, let me talk to Derek. Let me—" She shook her head. 37 years, Tom. Never one complaint, never one day absent. But maybe it is time for just the cleaning lady to clean somewhere else. By 6:30 a.m., word had spread through the building's management like wildfire. Elena Martinez, the woman who knew more about the daily operations of Meridian Tower than anyone else alive, was gone. The first person to panic was James Richardson, Senior Vice President of Operations. Elena was the only one who knew the combination to his private filing cabinet, the one containing documents from a merger that couldn't be digitized for legal reasons. The meeting was at 9 a.m. Without those files, they'd lose a $50 million deal. At 7:15 a.m., CEO Margaret Thornton arrived to find her office unlocked. Elena had always been the one to secure it after late-night meetings. But more importantly, Elena was the only one who knew where Margaret kept her backup drives containing the quarterly reports that were due to the board in 3 hours. By 8 a.m., the panic had spread to every executive floor. The head of HR realized Elena had been the unofficial keeper of employee files dating back decades, information never uploaded to their digital systems. The CFO couldn't access his safe because Elena had been the only witness when he'd changed the combination last year, and his memory wasn't what it used to be. But the real crisis hit at 8:30 a.m. when the FBI called. For 15 years, Elena had been their unofficial informant, not as a spy, but as someone who noticed things. Unusual visitors, documents left out, conversations heard through thin walls. She'd helped them prevent industrial espionage 6 times, corporate fraud twice, and 1 potential terrorist threat. They were calling for their monthly check-in, only to discover their most valuable asset was gone. At 9 a.m., Derek arrived for his day shift, expecting praise for finally bringing order to the building's security. Instead, he found Margaret Thornton herself waiting for him in the lobby, surrounded by 3 executives, 2 FBI agents, and Tom, who looked like he hadn't slept. "You're the new security guard," Margaret said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, ma'am," Derek replied, confused by the crowd. "Derek Thompson. I've been maintaining excellent security protocols." "Tell me about Elena Martinez," Margaret interrupted. Derek straightened up, confident. "The cleaning lady? I handled that situation last night. She was violating access protocols, trying to enter restricted areas after hours. I sent her home and told her to follow proper procedures. The silence that followed was deafening. FBI agent Sarah Chen stepped forward. "Mr. Thompson, are you aware that Elena Martinez has been our civilian liaison for over a decade?" Derek's confidence wavered. What?" Tom spoke up, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. "Derek, Elena wasn't just any cleaner. She was personally recruited by the company founder. She has a master's degree in accounting and speaks 4 languages. She's been the informal advisor to our executive team for decades." Margaret pulled out her phone, showing Derek a photo. "This is Elena Martinez receiving the Presidential Civilian Service Award in 2019. She helped prevent a cyber attack that could have cost American businesses billions. She did this while cleaning offices and never once asked for credit." Derek's face had gone white. I didn't know." "She tried to tell you she had permission," Agent Chen continued. "She's had unlimited building access since 1987. She's been in more classified briefings than most FBI agents." Another executive, someone Derek recognized but had never spoken to, stepped forward. Elena Martinez single-handedly prevented our hostile takeover in 2018. She noticed pattern in our visitor logs that our own security team missed. She saved 1,500 jobs and never asked for so much as a thank you. Derek looked around at the faces staring at him, finally understanding the magnitude of his mistake. Can we call her back? I'll apologize. Margaret shook her head. Elena Martinez doesn't accept apologies, Derek. She accepts respect. For 37 years, she's been the most important person in this building and the only one who never acted like it. Tom handed Derek a box. Clean out your locker. Security will escort you out. As Derek was led away, Margaret turned to Agent Chen. Any chance we can get her back? Agent Chen smiled sadly. Elena Martinez has been offered positions by Fortune 500 companies, government agencies, and private security firms for years. She stayed here because she believed in loyalty. But Elena has a rule. She never works anywhere twice. At exactly 9:45 a.m., a small crowd gathered outside Elena's apartment building. Margaret Thornton, 3 executives, Agent Chen, and 12 employees who'd worked alongside Elena for years. They didn't come with job offers or apologies. They came with something else. Elena answered her door in civilian clothes, her hair down for the first time any of them had seen. She looked smaller somehow, but her dignity remained untouched. Margaret stepped forward, holding a briefcase. Elena, we're not here to ask you to come back. We're here to give you what you should have received years ago. She opened the briefcase, revealing documents. This is your official appointment as Senior Security Consultant, retroactive to 1987. This includes full salary adjustment for 37 years, profit sharing, pension benefits, and stock options that reflect your actual contribution to this company. Elena looked at the papers but didn't touch them. Agent Chen spoke next. Elena, the FBI would like to offer you a position as Senior Civilian Intelligence Analyst, full federal benefits, security clearance, and the recognition you've earned 10 times over. Elena's neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, who had come out to see what the commotion was about, whispered to her husband, I always wondered why Elena was so smart. She helped my grandson with his college applications last year. Kid got into MIT. For a long moment, Elena didn't speak. Then she looked directly at Margaret. In 37 years, did you ever ask my opinion on anything? Margaret's composure cracked slightly. Elena, did you ever ask what I thought about the Johnson merger? The Peterson acquisition? The security breach in 2016? The silence stretched uncomfortably. Elena continued, her voice still quiet but carrying a weight that made everyone lean closer. I left reports on your desk. Typed them myself, put them in folders marked from Elena. You read them, used my recommendations, made millions in profit. But you never once asked what I thought. Margaret nodded slowly, understanding. You weren't invisible to us, Elena. We didn't see you. Exactly, Elena said. For 37 years, I was furniture that happened to be useful. Last night, your new guard reminded me what I really was. Just the cleaning lady. Agent Chen stepped forward. Elena, you're one of the most effective intelligence assets we've ever worked with. That's not the assessment of a cleaning lady. Elena almost smiled. Agent Chen, I appreciate that. But you called me civilian informant for 15 years. Even the FBI couldn't see me as more than helpful furniture. One of the employees, a young woman from accounting, spoke up. Mrs. Martinez, you helped me when I was being harassed by my supervisor. You didn't just listen. You documented everything, helped me file the complaint properly. You saved my career, maybe my life. You were never invisible to me. Other voices joined in. Stories of Elena helping with immigration papers, teaching English after hours, mediating disputes, solving problems that never officially existed. Person after person describing not a cleaning lady, but a guardian angel who worked the night shift. Elena listened to all of it, her expression softening but her resolve remaining firm. Finally, Margaret spoke again. "Elena, what would it take?" Elena looked at the crowd, then back at Margaret. 37 years ago, your father hired me. He didn't hire a cleaning lady. He hired Elena Martinez, accountant, mother, immigrant, human being. He paid me fairly, treated me with respect, and asked my opinion because he valued my mind, not just my work. She gestured toward the briefcase. "This offer, it's generous, but it's guilt money. You're trying to buy back 37 years of not seeing me." Margaret's shoulders sagged. "Then what do we do?" Elena was quiet for a long moment. "You learn," she said finally. "You pay attention to the people around you. You ask their names, their stories. You remember that every person in your building has a reason for being there beyond making your life easier." She looked at Agent Chen. "And you remember that civilian informant has a name and a mind and opinions worth hearing, not just information worth using." Elena stepped back toward her door. Derek Thompson was 25 years old, and 2 weeks into his first real job, he saw a cleaning lady because that's what you all taught him to see. You want to fix something? Fix that. As the crowd began to disperse, Elena called out once more. "Margaret?" The CEO turned back. "My replacement, when you hire her, learn her name on the first day. Ask her about her family. Remember that she sees everything, knows everything, and probably understands your business better than your consultants do." Elena went back inside, closing the door quietly behind her. Margaret stood on the sidewalk, holding a briefcase full of documents that would never be signed. Around her, executives and agents and employees began to walk away, each carrying the weight of 37 years of not seeing what was right in front of them. 3 days later, Derek Thompson sat in his apartment, scrolling through news articles about Elena Martinez. He'd learned more about her in 3 days than he'd bothered to learn about anyone in his entire life. She'd been featured in security journals, mentioned in FBI case studies, and quoted in business publications. She'd been hiding in plain sight, not from shame, but from a lifetime of being looked through instead of looked at. Derek picked up his phone and called information. It took 3 tries, but he finally got Elena's number. She answered on the second ring. "Hello? Mrs. Martinez, this is Derek Thompson, the security guard who treated you badly." There was a pause. "Yes?" "I'm not calling to apologize," Derek said, surprising himself. "I mean, I am sorry, but that's not why I'm calling." "Then why?" Derek took a breath. "I'm calling to ask if you'd teach me how to see people. Really see them, because I realize I've been blind my whole life and I don't want to be blind anymore." The silence on the other end stretched so long Derek thought she'd hung up. Finally, Elena spoke. "Derek, that is the first smart thing you have said since I met you. Does that mean you'll help me?" Another pause. "Come to the community center on 5th Street tomorrow at 7 p.m. I teach English classes for immigrants. You want to learn to see people? Start by seeing them." Derek showed up the next evening and every evening after that. He didn't learn just to see. He learned to listen, to ask questions, to understand that every person had a story worth knowing. 6 months later, Derek got a job as a community liaison officer, helping connect immigrants with city services. His supervisor mentioned that his recommendation letter was one of the most impressive she had ever read. It was signed by Elena Martinez, Senior Community Advocate, her new title at the nonprofit where she'd started working after leaving Meridian Tower. As for the tower itself, Margaret Thornton implemented what became known as the Elena Martinez Protocol. Every employee, from executive to custodian, had their photo, name, and brief biography posted in the lobby. Every new hire spent their first day learning not just their job, but the names and stories of everyone they'd be working with. the building's security improved dramatically. So did productivity, morale, and retention. Turns out when people feel seen, they work harder to be worth seeing. Elena never came back to Meridian Tower, but her influence never left. In break rooms and elevators, people still told stories about the woman who knew everything and asked for nothing except to be treated like a human being. And sometimes, late at night, security guards walking the empty hallways would remember Elena Martinez and ask themselves, "Who am I not seeing? Who am I looking through instead of looking at?" Because the most important lesson Elena taught wasn't about respect or dignity or recognition. It was simpler and harder than that. Every person you meet is carrying an invisible story. Your job isn't to judge the cover, it's to remember that there's always more than meets the eye. So I'll ask you, is there an Elena Martinez in your life? Someone whose name you don't know, whose story you've never asked about, whose contributions you've never acknowledged? Tell me in the comments about someone who deserves to be seen. Share their story, say their name, remind the world that invisible doesn't mean unimportant. And if this story made you think differently about the people around you, subscribe to Story with Jorge. We're here to remind you that every person has dignity, every job has honor, and every story deserves to be told. We'll see you in the next story. Until then, remember, the most powerful thing you can do for someone is not to help them or hire them or promote them. It's simply to see them. Their humanity is not invisible. We just stopped looking.